So my name is Dr. Jaron Pashki. I'm from Riverside City College. I'm a disability resource specialist. This is my colleague.
My name is Jessica Munoz. I am a program specialist over at Mission College here in Santa Clarita.
And today we're going to be talking about designing AI prompts for students with disabilities in college.
Yes.
So we are first going to start with the accessibility gap in higher education. Take it away, Jess.
All right. Okay, so welcome to our session on transforming higher education through artificial intelligence. Institutions may ensure that digital materials meet accessibility standards, but they fail to create experiences that empower all learners. So AI can shift this paradigm, not just by automating compliance checks, but by helping educators in understanding and designing for accessibility from the start. So for example, AI could analyze a prompt and suggest language adjustments that make it cognitively or linguistically accessible for diverse learners. Next, we have fragmented solutions. So accessibility tools work in isolation, meaning so screen readers, captioning system, all text generators oftentimes rarely communicate or work together. And if they do, they don't do so effectively. So AI can unify these systems. For instance, a student can use one conversational AI that integrates text simplification, audio transcription, and multimodal explanation, reducing the cognitive load of having to learn these accessibility tools. Next, we have skills and knowledge gap. So educators and students alike may lack the knowledge and the skills on how to create or how to use accessibility content effectively. So AI can bridge this gap, teaching users through demonstration. Or imagine an AI prompt assistant that can explain why certain phrasing or formatting supports accessibility, turning every interaction into a learning session. Next, we have inaccessible content. So despite legal frameworks, much of academic content remains inaccessible. So you have PDFs without tagging, or videos without captions, or prompts with ambiguous language. AI can dynamically translate content across modalities, turning text into audio, providing visual diagrams into verbal description, or taking material that's way too dense and simplifying it in a way where it's still, where it doesn't lose its meaning.
Okay, so what we're going to talk about today is prompts, our prompts. So if you've used ChatGPT and you've put a question in there, that is a prompt. Now, it's tailoring these prompts that are going to create the best outputs, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So, at the heart of this transformation are AI prompts. And when I say transformation, I mean the digital transformation in higher education. So structured inputs that tell AI what kind of support or information to provide. Understanding what prompts are and how they function is the foundation of building inclusive educational tools, as well as influencing the most optimal output. So first, what is an AI prompt? An AI prompt is simply the input. It's what you input, what you type in, the question, the command, whatever that may be, and it influences the output. Examples of AI prompts. Summarize this lecture in simple language. Provide step-by-step instructions for solving this math problem. Convert this slide into accessible text description. There's other stuff too, right? Solve this math problem. Tell me these movie times now. Stuff like that. So how prompts, though, can improve accessibility is vital for where we are at this point. So students with disability can customize their outputs to their specific needs and their learning preferences. So again, this means simplified text, audio summaries, visual aids. There's some AIs that'll take your input, whatever you put in there, that will generate a heavy metal song, that will generate a rap song, that'll generate a podcast. I think most of us probably know those things, but it's something I didn't have when I was growing up, and I can understand why it might be helpful for others. But I think what we're here to talk about today is that prompts can transform inaccessible materials into usable formats. And that's what's really important. And on the back end of this, how that's relevant is it can encourage independent learning, create an empowered feeling in that student, and create a self-advocate who is in control of their learning. right? They're a co-pilot with the instructor rather than kind of subservient to them. So prompt engineering is just a way to say that how we ask AI, okay? So the structure, the clarity, and the intent behind our inputs influence our outputs, right? So for students with disabilities, crafting those structured inputs or structured prompts is essential. It's a skill we should teach our students with disabilities. A clear step-by-step prompt can guide the AI to provide responses that are accessible. Again, plain language, summarizing key points, converting information into usable visual and auditory formats. So let's say this, for example, you go on ChatGPT and you type in explain photosynthesis. And it does, right? But it would be a lot better if you said explain photosynthesis in simple terms with short sentences and add a visual description that could be read by a screen reader. So that is a highly tailored, well-crafted input, right? That influences the output. So those are some of the skills that I see students when they use, get summaries from class, or maybe they get a summary from Genio and they want to put it and create more study material into ChatGPT that they're just not using, that they don't know about, and things our students should know about. But ultimately, well-crafted prompts, they can optimize clarity, accuracy, and reduce confusion. But consider students with disabilities such as ADHD or dyslexia who are especially affected by, and more sensitive to probably, cognitive overload. So much information at once. So AI prompts can help by structuring that complex information into smaller, digestible pieces immediately. But that immediacy of needing help, I mean, normally you have to go to class or go to office hours to meet with your professor, and you can immediately get someone to help you, if you're using it ethically, to create a study guide. They can create a summary. Maybe you don't understand this one part, and it can walk you through that, right? But they get it immediately, and they can request explanations in such a way that complements their own learning preferences.
So digital learning is often highly visual. Infographics, charts, videos, interactive simulations. But much of this content lacks proper descriptions or alternative formats, making it unusable for students with visual impairments. AI can help address this by generating automatic alt text media or audio summaries, or even verbal scene descriptions that convey what sighted students see. Next, we have limited sign language support. So for deaf or hard of hearing students, text-based captioning is a start. But it's not the same as sign language, which conveys meaning through facial expressions, spatial grammar, and motion. Currently, most digital systems lack built-in sign language interpretation or translation. However, emerging AI tools can translate spoken word into written language into animated sign avatars or real-time visual learning. Imagine students being able to prompt an AI, convert this lecture transcription into American Sign Language with facial expressions cues. This level of personalization could make educational content far more accessible and engaging. Next, we have lack of adaptive technology. So adaptive technologies like speech recognition, text-to-speech, or eye tracking software remain expensive, fragmented, and often incompatible with school systems. AI can serve as a universal adapter, customizing the learning interface to individual needs. For instance, students could generate personalized study tools through simple prompts. So for example, an example prompt could be, read this passage aloud slowly and highlight key terms as you go. Next, we have poorly structured materials. So finally, many educational resources are not designed for cognitive or linguistic accessibility. There's unstructured text, inconsistent formatting, dense language, which make comprehension difficult, especially for students with ADHD or dyslexia or processing disorders. AI can recognize, simplify, and clarify these things.
So processing large amounts of information can overwhelm working memory and attention span, especially if you have barriers that prevent you from doing so. So through prompts, students can use AI to simplify and condense complex material, and they still can retain the key meaning of it. So for example, summarize this article in 5 sentences at a high school reading level. Or explain this scientific concept using plain language and one analogy. These kinds of prompts transform cognitively demanding tasks into accessible insights. Again, they empower the student. They create a self-advocate. They create someone who's tailoring their learning. They become a co-pilot in their learning alongside the professor. They get immediate access to all of those things. And it's not about diluting the material. It's about making comprehension attainable and sustainable for that student. Study guide creation, this is something that we talk to our students a lot. So rather than just saying, hey, write a 5-page paper on Titanic, what we say is, get pointers on your paper. If you have an exam coming up, help it create a study guide, right? Because you're not going to have whatever form of ChatGPT with you when you take that test in the class, right? But students with cognitive impairments often struggle with note-taking and review organization, and sometimes they'll have accommodations to have equal access to those things. Despite that, though, AI can generate personalized study guides from class materials with a single prompt. Hopefully, it's usually easier when you have a transcript, a recorded lecture from the lecture presented by the professor, and you can upload that transcript directly into ChatGPT. I've had issues in the past, though, because you can imagine a 3-hour long, if I sit up here and talk for 3 hours, it's gonna be like 30 pages, right? So trying to upload that all into your AI is gonna be problematic. But if you scaffold it, upload it a few at a time, you can create your actual bot who can talk to you about this upcoming exam, who can talk to you about weeks 1 through 5 of learning, and then you can go back and forth. You've created this study bot who can assist you with the study guide. So it's a really interesting kind of process, but say if you uploaded all the study content, the transcripts, all of those things, you can say, create a study guide from these lecture notes, include definitions and key points. You can change the format of the questions. So you could request short answers, multiple choice, true, false, whatever it is. So you could actually simulate that environment, thus diluting the type of anxiety you might have going into the exam. So you could say generate quiz questions from this textbook section. Oftentimes you can just say the name of the textbook and it can go find it online and it gives you all of that information and it becomes your textbook bot. So that's something I think is really interesting. But ultimately these AI-driven supports help students focus their energy on learning and recall rather than kind of formatting, synthesizing, creating, like flashcards and doing all of those things. It's an immediate study tool that's available to them. Then lastly, we have organizational support. So executive functioning is planning, prioritizing, and sequencing tasks. It can be a major challenge for students with cognitive impairments. So AI prompts can serve as digital executive assistants, helping structure routines and manage workloads. So for example, make a daily study plan for my upcoming test and include breaks every 30 minutes as well as a break for lunch, right? Time management we know can be difficult. So if we create an actual day that incorporates your chores, that incorporates your time management, all of those things, it's a little easier. Or list the steps I need to complete this project in order, right? If we have a PDF copy of the syllabus, you could literally import that into your calendar too. All sorts of different things that take away the stress of having to actually plan everything before actually executing it, right? So for students with cognitive impairments, the key challenge is often information management, not capacity to learn. That's what I touched on earlier. And through thoughtful prompt generation, AI can become a type of digital assistant as well as a co-pilot in the actual learning experience. Students with visual impairments navigate a learning world designed primarily for the sighted. AI can make this world more inclusive, not just by reading text aloud, but by transforming visual information into meaningful, navigable experiences. So, if we have pictures and we upload them into our generative AI, we can actually say, describe this picture and what it means, right? So first, beginning with sonification, it's the process by which you turn visual data into sound. So for example, a graph might be represented by changing tones, pitch, height, rhythm, or frequency. And students can use prompts such as convert this bar chart into an audio version where pitch represents value, right? This turns inaccessible charts into rich auditory experiences, helping students interpret data independently, again, making them self-advocates as well as feeling empowered. Descriptive narration, which you guys might be familiar with. AI can generate detailed descriptive narration for images, diagrams, and videos. So a prompt, for example, that says, describe this image for someone who cannot see it, right? Students can receive contextual explanations, not just what's in the picture, but also why it matters, right? So it's an interactive experience. Voice assistant integration is also huge. So voice assistants are key companions for the visually impaired. Through well-crafted prompts, these tools can summarize readings, navigate interfaces, and even simulate tutoring conversations in some cases. An example of a prompt might be, summarize this lecture in 3 main points and explain 1 using an example. So by using conversational prompts, students can learn hands-free and on-demand anytime, anywhere. Spatial and temporal audio cues. AI can create spatial and temporal audio environments. Sounds that communicate where and when things happen. So for example, a student exploring a digital map could hear sounds that pan left or right to represent a type of movement. Interactive exploration is the next one we're going to talk about. So it enables interactive exploration of content that would have otherwise been static. So students can ask follow-up questions when they're generating prompts that says, explain the relationship between these data points using sound patterns. Right? Describe what happens when I move from left to right across the image. This transforms learning from passive listening to kind of active discovery when those who are visually impaired are working alongside AI. Finally, and this is really, really important, especially in our high-tech centers, and ours at RCC is fantastic, but students need training in how to use these things.
So for students with auditory impairments, digital learning environment often present invisible barriers, from uncaptioned videos to spoken-only instructions. AI offers new ways to break down these barriers through smart prompt generation. So by learning how to phrase prompts that guide AI tools, both educators and students can create more accessible multimodal experiences, transforming speech into text, visuals into explanations, and lessons into more interactive and inclusive formats. we have the automated speech recognition. So AI powered automated speech recognition can instantly transcribe lectures, meetings, group discussions into accurate real-time text. The power of prompting here lies in customization. So students can prompt an AI to adapt the transcription to their needs. So for example, a student can say something along the lines of, transcribe this lecture and highlight technical terms in bold. Or a student could also say, summarize the discussion in bullet points with timestamps. So traditional captions are often static, so they're meaning one size fits all type of thing. But AI-driven captioning can be controlled through prompts that match the learner's preferences. So for example, a student might say, generate captions with speaker names, emotion cues, and simplified vocabulary. Or a student could also say, provide 2 versions of captions, one detailed and one summarized. So navigating digital content can be a major challenge without fine motor control. So AI prompts can make navigation verbal and intelligent. For example, instead of scrolling through a textbook or a PDF, a student can say, find and read the section that explains the causes of climate change, or summarize the text in 2 paragraphs. This lets students move through complex content by asking and not just by clicking, and enabling a smoother, more autonomous exploration of digital materials. So voice bots are AI-driven conversational buddies or assistants, are particularly powerful for students with motor disabilities, as they can act as real-time collaborators, as tutors, as organizers. So a student might prompt AI to help them plan a 300-word essay on renewable energy, or create an outline and read it back to them. So the AI bot can generate structure and even revise content on command. So unlike static tools, accessibility tools, voice bots can engage in dynamic dialogue, giving students agency to shape their learning process through natural conversation. For students with disabilities, AI transforms effort into expression through voice commands, predictive text, and intelligent navigation. Learners can focus on creativity and understanding rather than physical barriers.
Some of the AI Android applications, and I won't spend too much time on this, Lookout from Google, Be My Eyes when it's in AI mode, ChatGPT voice bot, which again, it's just the weirdest thing. Like I have a friend in the office and he uses it for all sorts of different things, accommodation ideas, upload paperwork and be like, what do you think of this? Have conversations directly with it. And that could be a good resource for a student, right? They're saying, I'm a student, I'm this major, I'm interested in these type of things. How can I structure all of this content into a way that I can have a valuable conversation with my counselor tomorrow? When students with disabilities learn how to generate effective AI prompts, it's not just about interacting with technology, it's about transforming access, participation, and promoting their own independence. In terms of promoting student independence at its core, AI prompting promotes student independence. Instead of waiting for accommodation, specialized help, waiting to talk to the professor, what it does is it creates the immediacy to learn and adjust and tailor according to their preferences, right? So summarize this article in plain language and provide a short quiz at the end. If you have a transcript from an audio recording software, that's even more helpful. You can upload those things. This gives students control over their own learning experience. That improves access as well. So it improves access to information and it bridges communication and comprehension gaps. It also enhances their classroom participation because they may feel more confident having taken quizzes, having understood the concepts, right? They feel ready to participate in class if that's within them. It also boosts academic performance. So with AI support, students can reinforce and understand by tailoring how they study, and it allows for adaptive learning. So that's the really important part. Have you seen the Canvas thing when a student turns in something that is clearly generative? So what I've heard, and I'm a faculty member myself, so when I see those things, I'm interested, right? I've heard it's largely inaccurate, that it can pick up on things when students use like Grammarly, right? So it's pretty difficult, it's like you want to have that serious conversation with them, but also you're not sure if you have the evidence to substantiate that conversation with them. So it's weird. It creates this interesting relationship between the student and the instructor. But ultimately, these prompts can create an inclusive AI framework, and it has to remain human-centered. We are the ones who create the inputs and influence the outputs. And ultimately, we should be holding workshops that improve AI literacy, informing our students what is unethical. So this is me, obviously on ChatGPT. It's going to be hard for you guys to see, so I am going to read it to you. So the first thing I started with was explain photosynthesis, just like we talked about. And then, of course, it explains photosynthesis. I don't even know what that equation says, so something to think about. But now I'm like, whoa, that was really complicated. I am only in the 6th grade, right? Can you make this easier to understand? And without the equations. So then it adapts, right? So it's like, of course, smiley face. Didn't get a smiley face in the first one, I don't think. But so now it's scaffolding the information. It made it super easy to understand. And this is good. So now I'm flip-flopping and I say, actually, I've decided I'm in my 2nd year doctorate in chemistry. Fancy. And can you please, so I said please this time, that's nice of me. Can you please explain photosynthesis again? So now we can see how we can tailor these levels and how the student can tailor the difficulty level, to adapt to their own learning and where they are in their educational experiences. So, if there's a chemist in here, I'm sure that's valuable in some way, shape, or form. So I said, okay, reverting back to high school. Now I'm in high school. Can you make a visual aid? that overviews these concepts, how photosynthesis works. So have you guys generated visual aids using ChatGPT before? Some of us? Okay. So sometimes it takes a little longer. This one took just a second, but it's pretty cool. I mean, you can, if someone has a barrier and prefers a learning or has a learning preference for visual aids, those are things that you can use to automatically do this. Now, one thing too, I think an access issue maybe is that like me, I'm a grad student right now, so I get access to like the top tier ChatGPT for free. I don't have a limit on the questions I can ask or anything like that. Do your schools have that same thing or no? Mixed? Okay. So that's like why I'm able to do this. But you can imagine that students, when they get into class, some are able to tailor their own learning experiences specifically to how they learn. And others are completely on the outside. They're stuck, basically. So I think it's really important to consider that it's almost an equity issue when you think about it. And now I said, I have a visual impairment and seeing this image is difficult. Can you please describe it to me? I'm a high school student, right? So I mention all those barriers, I show everything, and then right here, we could have all of this here described. So it says at the top left, there's a yellow sun shining down on the plant. An orange arrow points from the sun to one of the leaves, labeled light energy. Right? So there are ways to bypass or at least alleviate some of the pressure on the barriers using generative AI. Again, I don't want to sell you on this. I'm sure many of you have used it. It's not the end all be all. It's not the cure, right? But right here I said, wow, you can turn this into an audio-friendly summary. Tell me more about that. And this is when it talks about 3 different modes: study mode, story mode, and quiz mode. Study mode is more formal, like a teacher explaining it. Story mode is more like a friendly narrator guiding you through everything. And quiz mode generates an entire quiz for you right there. And again, I know some of the software our students are already provided. For example, we have Genio, the AI-enhanced audio-to-text transcription software that we hold. It has a quiz me feature. It has a summary feature. It has those things. But really starting to integrate how we use it to take down those barriers, I think is where we're heading, and how to incorporate AI into our classrooms as part of the learning experience too is a really, really important venture. So I go into some other examples here, creating a podcast called Green Power, the magic of photosynthesis. But I think that's what I'll leave you with today, is that prompt engineering is a great way to break down barriers, empower our students, and make them their own self-advocates. Again, my name is Dr. Jaron Pashki.
My name is Jessica Munoz.
And thank you all for joining us.
Thank you.